Hi everyone, Diana Rankin here with your weekly soul messages and psychic messages. This is the 17th week of 2020, and this is for April the 19th to the 25th. Got my calendar here, got to keep that. This week we're going to talk about, we'll get our message from Phillip, and this is an oracle book, and every page has a different, we just open to any page because every page has a different wisdom on it. And you might notice I'm trying to move here without using the left arm, and that's because, and that lead us to our message, by the way, and our message. A week ago Saturday, I was out walking in the woods and I tripped and I fell and I broke my left shoulder. And I'm fine. I'm doing well. I'm just not yet really able to use the left arm or the left shoulder. But I can a little bit use the left hand now. It was all swollen and I had very, very good care. I was well taken care of, and everybody was very kind, and I'm healing quickly and doing well, and it's amazing what you can do with one hand or one arm when forced to. So I thought about that, and I thought, okay, I fell, and we're all going through this social isolation or self-isolation or social distancing or whatever we want to call it. Excuse me. And I thought about that, and I thought, how does that pertain to this week's message? And by the way, thank you for your questions. Just put them in the comments below and I'll pick them up, or email me or give me a call with your questions. Any of your questions, please make them universal so they pertain to everyone on our list, not just, if you want personal questions answered, then we'll make an appointment for you and set up a session. But universal questions in the last 3 weeks, it took us 3 weeks to answer one question about our soul families. So this particular question is one of mine, because I started thinking about the fall, what it meant, and what was my message here. You know, I don't think in terms of lessons as much as gifts. So I always like to look and say, what is the gift that this fall gave me? What is the gift that whatever so-called bad things happen in our lives, we can piss and moan about it, or we can say, help me grow, help me learn from this, help me to know how to change my life, to make my life better, so things are better in the world. And what I got is a reading from the same book we've been reading from about soul families, The Found Child. It's one of mine, and it is available on Amazon. And for those of you who have purchased it, thank you. It's a little bit long passage, but I thought this is important because this is about all of us. This isn't just about me. This is to remind all of us of who we truly are. And this is a conversation, just to set it up for those of you who haven't been following us, and welcome back, all of you who do, and welcome to my new friends here. We're so glad to have you with us. But what this is this is chapter 10. It's kind of in the middle of the book. And what happened is this lead character in the book had a motorcycle spill, and then she goes walking down her lane and finds a strange little boy by the name of Davy, because of Davy, she then meets Phillip, who is a spirit guide, and takes her on this journey through spirit world. So we learn what happens before we come into birth, what happens after birth, what happens to people who die and don't make the transition into the next spirit world. What happens if they get caught, and can we do anything to change that? But what this is this passage I'm going to read is a time when they being Phillip and Davy and the main character, are in spirit world. And it's called The Masters, is the title of it. And forgive me if I don't look up a lot. I'm having a little trouble holding the book. Um, so sorry about that. But I think this is an important message for all of us. So here we go. Come, Philip said. He was dressed in a white hooded robe. I recognized him as the Celtic druid he had once been. You are my teacher, I said. I am still your teacher. Come. His voice was serious, almost stern. We walked down a long, windowless corridor and then began descending down long, narrow spiral steps. Philip stepped so quickly he seemed to float down the steps. Me, it took longer until I felt winded. And Philip turned and looked at me. You have plenty of air, he said. Breathe. I did, and suddenly I felt like I was floating an inch or so above the steps. I was able to step down much more rapidly and without getting winded. I was thinking I could almost get used to this dimension, and then I remembered I might not want to. It wasn't exactly living on Earth as I knew it, and I kind of liked my life on Earth. I wasn't so sure I was ready to give it up, but then I wasn't so sure I got to keep it either. Philip had promised I was still alive, but this sure felt different from anything I had ever experienced, even in dreams. We came to a stop in a small room with a closed door opposite from our entrance through an open archway. I looked around for Davy, expecting him to be meeting us. Davy will meet us later, Philip said. This is for you, not for him. The door across the room opened into a dark northern forest with a dirt path that led deeper into the forest. I felt rather than saw eyes on us as I followed Philip along the path. The path being narrow and Philip being taller than I by more than a foot kept me from seeing past him. My only vision was to the right and left, and although I certainly do not have any great knowledge of forestry, I was certain most of the trees were oak and different species of yew trees, some of which had jagged, gaping holes that created small caves in the tree trunks. I half expected to see wizards sitting within those tree caverns. At one point, we came to a clearing where the sun shone brightly on a grove of apple trees, and then we were back in the forest where we came to a single English yew tree that stood alone, surrounded by a stone circle. I had neither a sense of walking up or downhill. I did have a sense that we had walked in a circle as though traversing a giant spiral labyrinth, curving back in on itself. I thought of my home where walkers go through a pine cathedral before entering the 7-spiral labyrinth cut in a field of wildflowers. At the entrance to my home labyrinth, between the rows of pine and the opening to the labyrinth, is a single apple tree. And like the pine trees, was planted long before I moved there. For a moment I felt homesick and wondered what would happen if I asked to go home, or even if I could. I was about to ask Philip whether I would ever go home again when he stopped suddenly and turned to look at me. You are prepared for this encounter, he said. You are ready. I had no idea what in the world or out of the world he was talking about. But I let go of memories of home and followed him as he ducked into the caverned belly of the yew tree. Immediately I heard the most beautiful, awe-inspiring harp music. It touched and tugged my heart, and I felt my heart opening to the music, feeling its rhythm moving into me, becoming a part of me, every cell vibrating with each string as invisible fingers plucked and pulled the strings in a heavenly melody. I could stay here forever. Home and homesickness vanished as the strains of the haunting music filled me full. The music stopped. In the stillness came sounds of wind whistling through a mountain pass. Then I saw the colors. At first they appeared as a whole bands of indescribable hues of violets, indigos, pinks, blues, reds, oranges, yellows, greens, all part of a huge white translucent canvas where iridescent colors shone through. As they danced and swayed together, got to turn the page, in one giant orchestrated symphony of color, they began to sing, and I heard the music of each individual color as well as the blending of all. Then they changed form. The bands of color became individual balls of light that left traces as they whizzed about. These are the masters, Philip said as he spoke. And as he spoke, lights began to turn into forms. As they took on human bodies, I gasped. There, right in front of me, so real I could reach out and touch the flesh of each, was the ancient Irish god, the Dada, Jesus the Christ, the Buddha, Kuan Yin, Goddess Anana, Chief Buchanhagas, Krishna, the Kamsa, Yogananda, Plato, Galileo, Isis, Laertes, Hildegard, Plato, Zeus, Altamira, and many more. Among the masters were those whose names cannot be spoken aloud, and those whose names I didn't know. All the great leaders and spiritual leaders of the world, all the gods and goddesses, all the masters who have taught humans through the eons were moving around right in front of me. Later, Philip would explain that many of the masters have not yet made themselves known to us, to those of us on the earth plane. Others were masters from the other dimensions or planets and were convened in this room in the human form so I could see them. Are they really here? I whispered. Yes, and they are also elsewhere, Philip said. There are many places at once. But with whom do you wish to converse? I shied back. Dare I? Who was I to talk with a master? Philip's thought interrupted mine. You are prepared for this encounter. You are ready. Who was I to not to? And this I really want all of you to hear. This is probably one of the most important lines in the whole book. The ego both pumps us up and keeps us down. I'm going to repeat that because I think it's such an important line. The ego both pumps us up and keeps us down, Philip said. The ego will tell you that you are better than the other. It also tells you that you're not as good as the other. Both are ego. One is easier than the other to recognize in the earth plane. We don't think of the ego as that which tells us we aren't good enough, I said. So Philip, you tell me I am ready, and so I am. I step into this. I am ready. Philip waited. Silence. I too waited, not knowing what to say. Finally he spoke. You have not told me with whom you wish to converse. I began to let out a long sigh as I realized I had been holding my breath when Philip added, Of course you may converse with each. We are not on a timetable. He smiled at himself then, thinking he had made a joke with a timetable remark. There is no time in this dimension. It did not exist. Time is something we make up in the earth world for organization and communication. Time has become a commodity that no one has enough of. Yet here I was standing face to face with every great master the world had ever known, and those we are yet to know, and we have all the time we need. Remarkable. Philip, I'm overwhelmed. I want to sit at the feet of each and listen as they speak. You can do that at any time, even in your world, he said. All you need to do is listen. Everyone here is willing to speak to anyone who asks. He was quiet for a moment, pondering, and when he spoke, it was with deep reverence. There are those who do listen with their hearts as well as their minds. These are the ones who truly hear the masters. He turned to me, raised one eyebrow in questioning. I laughed. You look like Mr. Spock, I said. Yes, a Star Trek thing. He smiled, seeming to enjoy my amusement. Not even your jokes will put off the inevitable, he said. You are not required to speak to anyone. We merely thought you might like to, but you must make that decision and communicate it to me. I admit I'm a little overwhelmed. There are so many I wish to speak to, but I'm going to choose two. I'm going to choose Jesus and Kuan Yin. I was raised a Christian as a child, but the church never felt quite right to me. God always seems so much more than the church. I'd like to know what Jesus has to say about religion. I'd also like to speak to Kuan Yin. She can teach me how to be more compassionate in my role. So be it. Philip disappeared from my view, yet I felt him behind me. At the same time, a blinding light forced me to momentarily shield my eyes. When I removed my arms from across my eyes, Jesus stood in front of me. He was a much smaller man than I had thought him to be, only a few inches taller than me. His skin was darkened and his brown hair lightened from the sun. His eyes were a deep brown and intense, yet soft. His nose was large and had an ever so slight bump in the center. It was not a pristine nose the Italian painters would later depict, but a proud, strong nose on a real man. His hands, too, were strong, a carpenter's hands, sturdy hands that could grasp a child or a lamb, or even an adult, and take from them that which kept them from their own perfect health or their life. I wanted to kneel and kiss the hem of his robe, but I knew that was not what I was to do. I was to stand in front of him, looking directly into his eyes and speak. So I did. Master Jesus, it is said that you could have walked away from the Garden of Gethsemane, walked down the other side of the mount away from the soldiers. If this is true, why did you stay? My question caught me quite off guard. It was not what I thought I would be asking. But his answer caught me even more off guard. It certainly was not what I was expecting. Why did you ride the motorcycle? Did you not know they are dangerous? Did you not know what was coming? I forgot I was engaged in conversation with the great master, with Jesus, the Son of God, according to the entire Christian world. I was talking to a man, an interesting man, who in every way treated me as an equal. I answered as one. Well, there were signs, I suppose, I said. I didn't like that road, didn't want to go that way, but it was silly to go any other direction, and 2 days before I dropped the bike, I put the kickstand down in gravel and it sank into the earth, the ground being too soft beneath the gravel. I guess the signs were there. You chose to not heed them. I chose to not heed them, I repeated. I don't know why. Jesus' eyes smiled at me. I had to take that ride, I said, and in speaking I understood, just as you had to wait for the soldiers. It is what your soul agreed to, as did mine, he said. The signs were there to give you a chance to change your mind. Earth is a place of free will. I started to protest that he was a master, not me, and that I clearly heard Philip remind me it is only ego that tells us we are not enough. I took a deep breath and spoke clearly. Jesus, I understand why you did not leave the garden now, why you let the soldiers take you when there were those who would have kept you safe. Your death started Christianity, a whole new religion that spread around the world. Yes, that, he said, rather bemused. That was not my intention. Paul had more to do with that than I. Who knows what others will make of our lives? I am a teacher. This too is what you are. Excuse me. A lot of talking does it, doesn't it? Thank you. There's a big difference, I hastened to add, and then caught my breath. Is there? He countered. It is only a matter of degrees. On earth, the people require your masters to have lived long ago and accomplished much. But I tell you, there are masters walking among you today in every country of the world. There have always been masters walking among the people throughout all ages. This you must know and respect. You must also accept and respect the masters who walk among the people of the world today. They are the teachers, the philosophers, the seers, the healers, the mothers and fathers, the children, the ones who understand the meaning of life and who give themselves to the service of life. Philip is a master, I said in awe. Yes, Philip is a master. Not all masters are to start a new religion, Philip said, or as Jesus said, and I heard the wryerness in his voice and knew that he knew how to laugh and poke fun at himself. I felt such joy being in his presence, such lightheartedness. I felt guilty. I'm not a Christian, I said to Jesus. Neither am I, he said. On earth I was a Galilean Jew. Now they claim I am a master. He sighed, a great weight of a sigh. And then he smiled and the sun radiated. This I tell you, he began. Masters are the people who walk among you who have reached a higher level of understanding. That is all. How do we recognize the masters among us, I asked. How do we tell the true masters from those who claim they are? Those who call themselves masters are not, Jesus said. Nor do masters shy from their greatness. To do either is spoken from the ego, not from the truth of spirit. When I walk the earth, I never claimed to be a master. Some call me a prophet, others call me the Messiah, the Son of God. Never once did I lay claim to any of these titles. They were given to me by others. For ever so slight a second, sadness passed over his face, and I saw the burden that comes from others labeling us, and I understood that Jesus had walked his soul's path much like each of us must do. He was a teacher, a leader. This was his journey. He spoke then, his voice kind. Each person has a different life journey. None other can take it for you. Every human being is irreplaceable. Everyone's journey affects the lives of all who came before and all who come after. Like the pebble in the water, I whispered almost to myself. Jesus smiled. Ripples go out from the pebbles thrown into the water, and we know not to whom those ripples flow over or how they affect those who experience our ripples. Wow, that makes me really want to be careful about what I say and do. For a moment, I let it all sink in, and then I added, and even what I think. Jesus said not a word, yet I felt his smile penetrate deep into my heart. I closed my eyes and brought my hands into prayer mode at my heart in deep gratitude for this encounter. Tears wet my eyes as I heard Jesus speak and felt the truth of my responsibility to all life. Follow your path in love and with knowledge, and it will take you where you need to go, Jesus said. I felt the ripple effect of Jesus' life touch my life and knew the ripple effect of my life would not start a religion, but it might help ease the heart of another human being or save the life of an animal. I was humbled and awed by the greatness of being human. I closed my eyes for just a moment, and when I opened them, Jesus was gone. He was again part of the swirling shots of colored lights that whisked alone among, He was again part of the swirling shots of colorful lights that whisked and whirled around. For a moment, I stood alone among the swirling lights. I understand why people thought Jesus was the Son of God, I said. There are many on earth who still believe Jesus is the Son of God, Phillip said as he materialized before me. Jesus is the Son of God. So are you. We all are. What is missing is the accepting responsibility for our own relationship as a child of God. We all are, I asked. Yes, all beings are offspring of Prime Spirit, the prime source of all that is. You're saying we are all related to Prime Spirit in the same way as Jesus? Yes. Why don't we recognize this? Well, first, you must recognize your own divinity, which requires taking total responsibility for your life. That means taking responsibility for every action, every word, even every thought. Yes, this is a most difficult task. It is much easier to pass it off to a master. Seldom do human beings want to accept who they are. They call themselves less than they are and allow themselves to live in mediocrity, not in their greatness. Every human being is made for greatness, but this then is a relative term for which humans have little understanding. What do you mean, Philip? As you saw before, each human chooses a life. Greatness is in living that choice to its fullest. So if I choose to be a teacher, then it's my responsibility to always strive to be a great teacher. Is that what you mean? Philip took a deep breath of impatience. to strive to be what you already are. No. If you choose to be a teacher, you're a teacher. All you have to do is to be a teacher. He could clearly see my confusion, so he continued. You become what you are born to be. This essence of you grows along with you. You are drawn to spend time and energy on that which helps you become more of what you already are. So studying that which helps us in our endeavors actually helps us remember who we are, precisely. Or what if we're not a teacher? What if we're a beach bum? Are not beach bums rather young at heart? Oh, I think so, yes. My point is made. Philip hesitated to make sure I understood his point, and when he saw I didn't, he added, You understand what is noble and good about being a teacher, but you're wondering what is noble and good about being a beach bum. Am I that transparent? I asked, and then remembered to whom I was speaking. I don't want to be judgmental, Philip, but it does seem to me a teacher may be a bit more noble than a beach bum. Philip smiled and waved his hand. A screen opened before me, and I saw my quintessential idea of a beach bum. A tan, straggly-haired blonde of mid-20s who spent his days on a surfboard and his nights in the gym or having a beer at the local hangout. I had to laugh. Now, I suppose you expect to see a movie of this beach bum saving the life of a young person who grows up to do great things for humanity, becoming a captain of business and funding food projects that feed many starving people. Well, this is true, of course, but it is a different time I wish to show you. The beach bum, Troy by name, was strolling along a sun-washed beach when he was diverted by screaming children at play. I watched as he walked over to the children, and as he watched them play, he smiled, and then he began to laugh, a hearty, full laugh, which lightened my heart in joy. His laughter and that of the children's penetrated into my every cell, infusing me with bliss. Not everyone knows how to lighten the hearts of others, Philip said. Oh, I feel the truth of what you say, and the demonstration you showed me, I said. Truth is truth, Philip said. All masters speak the same truth, although their expressions may be of different natures. I'm going to repeat that last line. All masters speak the same truth, although their expressions may be of different natures. Well, my friends, I hope that this has meaning for your life. And and when we think of bad things happening, let's question that. Is it really such a bad thing? When I had the motorcycle spill, this book came out of that. And this book has been a wonderful gift to me, and many others have told me it's been a wonderful gift to them. Out of the shoulder, I was reminded of the passage in this book. So, it's interesting. I have to tell you, from this broken shoulder, I've received many, many blessings, many, many gifts. And I won't go into them all, but let me just tell you, was it worth it? Yes. Could I have done it without breaking the shoulder? Maybe. Some of them, probably not. And that's okay with me. And thank you all for your healing energy and prayers. I am healing rapidly, and I just can feel the healing energy coming to me from so many healers, and I am so blessed. Shall we get our message? I'm going to put the book down because I can't hold it with the left hand. It's a little too heavy for that arm yet. So we're just going to open. We're going to just flip through and open to any page. And here's where we open to. And I'm hearing left, but I always read both pages. So if you heard left, your intuition is working well. If you heard right, then that just is a personal message that you need to listen to. And I always read both pages. Okay, here's the left page, and this is our message. Beauty is all around you. To see it, look. It's difficult going through what we are in the U.S. and in the world. But let's remember, beauty is all around you. To see it, look. And for those of you who got right, this is your message. And this goes along, this is very important because this also goes along with our reading today from the Found Child. Because many of you out there just might be a master and you're not yet realizing that or accepting it. And or recognize what it means. From each person you meet, you have something to give and something to receive. From each person you meet, you have something to give and something to receive. Beauty is all around you. To see it, look. Daisy is confined. We have hardwood floors all over the house, and she kept slipping and falling. And we, of course, with the social isolation, uh, she hasn't been getting her acupuncture treatments lately. So we will get back to that. But right now, she's confined to an area where there's a carpet, and she is not here with me in the office, and I do miss her. But she sends her woof woof and bark bark to all of you, her love and her heart, as do I. I thank you for being with me today. I thank you from my heart to your heart. I love you. Thank you for receiving that love, and thank you for all the love you send us. Until we meet again, and hello, hello, Weasel. So glad to see you. Until next week, thank you, my friends. Let's see if we can end this now. There we go.